Good morning.
In unison, good morning, Your Honor.
Yesterday I made a ruling on the impeachment testimony. I gave the opportunity to the defense to provide specific impeachment citations that they were interested in impeaching with this testimony, and I've reviewed that. I received it this morning. I'm not going to change my ruling. The impeachment that is requested is to collateral issues, and so the ruling will stand. Let's bring in the jury.
Your Honor, before you do, we had asked to just address the court on scheduling.
Yes.
Scheduling matters. Could we do that up at the bench?
All right, approach the bench, so the jury doesn't hear.
Your Honor, may I join? I think it will help.
All right, discussion held off the record at sidebar. All right, I'm going to have the jury come in. I'm sorry for the conference there. But what we were able to achieve in that conference at bench here was the schedule for the court for the next few days. So I appreciate the fact that you had to sit here and wait without hearing that. But it's going to help me in the long run. We'll bring in the jury. Good morning.
In unison, good morning.
Counsel, you may proceed.
Yes. We had Mr. Vivanco on the stand.
Come forward, please. When you get to the witness stand, you may be seated. You're still under oath.
Okay, Mr. Vivanco, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Fine, thank you. All right, I just have a little bit more for you here. Yesterday, you told us that you had, I believe you said you had started to talk with Davellin. Is that right?
Yes.
And how did this all start? Well, let me ask you this first. As an employee at Neverland, were you supposed to have personal conversations with the guests, or not?
No.
Okay, how did it happen that you started to have personal conversations with Davellin?
She would ask me questions, and I would answer as a worker there, I would answer her.
Okay, you would answer her. Did you eventually develop a friendship?
Yes.
And can you, let me withdraw that. Other than during the work hours, did you have occasion to see her?
Yes.
And where would you generally meet with her?
After work at the parking area.
And where is the parking area?
Where the fire department is at.
Okay, do you mean the administration building?
Yes.
Up on the hill, outside the manicured lawn area, is that right?
Yes.
All right, and about what time of night would you generally see her?
After work at around maybe 10 o'clock, 10:30.
Okay, and about how long would you spend together in the evening?
Probably half an hour.
Okay, and during this, at some point, Davellin and her family left Neverland for the last time. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that day, but she told me about it.
Okay, so there's some point at the end where she's at Neverland and then she's not there anymore.
Yeah.
And you weren't there that exact night when she left, is that right?
Yes.
All right, so about how many evenings did you spend on a personal basis with Davellin?
Around 5 or 6.
Okay, and was this closer to the beginning of her visits there or the end?
Towards the end.
Okay, and then one day she just wasn't there anymore, is that it?
Yeah.
All right, now, during the course of your visiting with her, did you, in fact, have personal conversations with her?
Yes.
All right, then after she left, we saw that phone record yesterday, and I'm not going to put them up again, but you saw your telephone number up there. Do you recall if she telephoned you after she left?
I think it was the day she left, like that night.
Okay, and did she keep calling you after that for a while?
Yes.
And then at some point, you stopped getting telephone calls from her, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, did you continue to have personal conversations during those phone calls over the next 2 weeks or whatever it was?
Yes.
All right, now, during that entire time that you had personal conversations with Davellin, did she ever complain to you that Michael Jackson had treated her or her family in a bad way?
No.
Did she ever claim to you that she was being falsely imprisoned?
I'm going to object as leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
Thank you.
No.
Did she ever complain to you that any of her family members had been mistreated by anybody at Neverland?
No.
Alright, I have no further questions.
Mr. Vivanco, good morning.
Good morning.
Did you say yesterday that you used to work there from 7 o'clock in the morning until 10 p.m.?
Yes.
Every day?
Yes.
Monday through Friday?
Yes.
And sometimes on Saturday, sometimes on Sunday?
Yes.
Were you getting overtime during that time?
Yes.
Did you see the documentary, Living with Michael Jackson?
Yes.
When did you see it?
2 nights after it aired.
2 nights after it aired?
Yes.
How did you happen to see it 2 nights after it aired?
On my day off. I think that was the same night maybe. I'm not sure, but I seen it all.
You thought it was playing 2 nights later?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you recognize any of the people who were in that documentary?
Yes.
Objection. That's beyond the scope, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Alright. Did you know who Martin Bashir was?
Yes.
Did you see him when he was on the property at Neverland?
Yes.
Alright. When was it that the Arvizo family was there at Neverland? Before or after Martin Bashir was there?
Before.
So the Arvizos came after Martin Bashir was there?
Objection. Misstates the, well, it's confusing. It's ambiguous, let's put it that way.
I'll allow the question. Do you understand the question?
No.
Alright, let me ask it again. Do you remember seeing the Arvizo family present at Neverland while Martin Bashir was there?
No.
You saw. You never saw the Arvizos at any time while Martin Bashir was there?
Yes. Yes, I remember. Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
On how many occasions was Martin Bashir at Neverland?
Maybe I've seen him 5 times.
5 times. Over what period of time?
Over a month maybe.
Over 1 month?
Yes.
Okay. And during that time, on how many of those occasions that he was there was the Arvizo family there as well?
I don't remember.
Was it more than once?
I think so.
When Star was playing around with the knife in the kitchen, did you report that to anybody?
No, I didn't.
Did you call the police?
No.
You didn't call the police because you didn't think he was serious, right?
I thought he was playing around.
You thought he was joking?
Yes.
Did you tell him that wasn't the right thing to do?
Afterwards, yes.
He was a 12-year-old kid at the time, right?
Yes.
And afterwards, you said that wasn't the right thing to do?
Yes.
What do you mean, afterwards? Right after it happened or a day later, 2 days later? What?
Right after it happened.
Right after it happened?
Yeah, like 2 hours later, after I seen him again.
Alright, so you told him to put the knife down and he did?
Yes.
You never felt threatened by that?
No, not really.
And you never felt scared of him?
No.
He was a 12-year-old kid playing around, right?
Yes.
Did you report that incident to Michael Jackson?
No.
Did you report the incident to Michael Jackson of Gavin using an obscene word?
No.
Did you report it to anybody?
I told my coworkers about it.
Did you report to Michael Jackson that the kids were drinking alcohol?
No.
When you were initially interviewed by the sheriff's office, you told them that you didn't know who the Arvizo family was, right?
Yes, at that time I didn't recognize their last name. I didn't know them by the Arvizos.
They gave you all the names, didn't they? Star, Davellin, Gavin.
Just the first names, yes.
And you told them you didn't recognize any of them, right?
Just the last name, I didn't recognize the last names.
And he had to show you photographs. And then after he showed you photographs you said, oh, yeah, I remember them, right?
Yes.
You didn't tell them anything about a knife incident, did you?
No.
You didn't tell them anything about them drinking alcohol, did you?
No.
You didn't tell them anything about Gavin swearing at you, right?
No.
No further questions.
Okay, Mr. Vivanco, was it your job to report things directly to Michael Jackson?
No.
So if something went wrong with guests or with anything at the ranch, who would you ordinarily go to if it was serious enough?
The supervisor of the ranch.
Alright, and if you felt that you could handle the situation, did you feel a need to report everything that happened?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled.
Yes.
Okay, now, you said, this knife incident. Mr. Zonen asked you if you were scared. Did you think it was funny?
Not really.
And was it a sharp knife or a dull knife?
It was sharp.
Had any other guests ever done anything like that to you in the time you worked there?
Objection. Irrelevant.
Overruled.
No.
Now, Mr. Zonen asked you about talking to the police. Do you remember talking to the police?
Yes.
Did you try to be cooperative?
Yes.
Were you nervous?
Yes.
Now, did they ever ask you anything about a knife?
No.
Did they ever ask you anything about Gavin or Star swearing?
No.
Did they ever ask you about Gavin or Star asking you for alcohol?
No.
Alright, okay, thank you. No further questions.
Who is the supervisor you reported these incidents to?
Jesus Solace.
Objection. Miss. Oh, I'm sorry. It's either beyond the scope of direct, I mean of redirect, or misstates the evidence.
Well, the question was vague. We have an answer, but I'll strike the answer and let you re-ask the question.
Did you report any of these events to any supervisor?
Yes.
Alright, who was the supervisor?
First it was Rudy Lozano,
Rudy who?
Rudy Lozano.
Say the last name again slowly.
Lozano.
Lozano? Okay. What did you tell Rudy?
About what Star did.
Which?
Which is when he stuck the knife to my neck.
What else? What else did you tell Rudy?
About the alcohol incident.
What else did you tell Rudy?
And about the swearing.
When was that?
Right after it happened, I would tell him.
What?
Right after the incidents would happen, I would tell him, right after.
What month was that?
I don't remember the month.
What year was it?
2003.
Sometime in 2003?
Yes.
Did you tell somebody else about these events?
No.
Didn't you just say you told Jesus Solace?
Oh, yes, Jesus Solace.
What did you tell Jesus Solace?
The same thing.
Each of these?
Yes.
No further questions.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You may step down.
Your Honor, the defense will call Ms. Irene. Excuse me, Ms. Irene Peters.
When you get to the witness stand, I'd like you to remain standing. Face the clerk here and raise your right hand.
I do. Please be seated. State and spell your name for the record.
My name is Irene Laverne Peters. IRENE. LAVERN. PETERS.
Thank you.
Good morning, Miss Peters.
Good morning.
Miss Peters, my name is Tom Mesereau and I speak for Mr. Jackson. Miss Peters, how are you employed?
I'm employed as a social worker with the Department of Children and Family Services.
And is that in Los Angeles?
Yes, it is.
And how long have you worked for the Department of Children and Family Services in Los Angeles?
30 years.
Okay, and what do you do with the department?
Would you move closer?
I investigate child abuse referrals for neglected, abused and abandoned children and exploited children. I work in a sensitive case unit which deals with high-profile type cases. I've been working in there for maybe 7 years. I also have numerous experiences in emotional abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, you name it, after 30 years.
And to have a position like this, what kind of training do you have to go through?
Well, I have extensive training. I've graduated from Cal State Los Angeles years ago. It was 25 years ago. I also get extensive training from our department in different areas on a monthly basis, or whatever.
And is there a particular office that you operate out of in Los Angeles?
Yes, it is.
And where is that?
It's on Wilshire and Vermont, in that area.
Are there other offices that DCFS has in Los Angeles?
Yes, there is.
And is there any particular reason why you're located at that office?
Well, that's the region that we're in. We're in different regions, and the particular unit that I'm in is housed in that particular building.
Now, have you taken courses periodically during your 30 years?
Yes, I have.
What courses have you taken?
Oh, wow.
If you could just summarize them.
Interviewing exploited children. Interviewing sexually abused children. Interviewing. Oh, wow. Let me see. I've also done child's play. You know, it's so many, I can't, right off the hand, I just can't.
As part of your job, are you asked to periodically take courses like this?
Yes. Maltreatment of children. So numerous, I just can't remember all of them.
As part of your responsibilities, do you get periodic updates on the latest information about your field?
Yes, I do. Yes.
How is that done?
We're asked if we need training in certain things. They give us an opportunity to participate in the trainings.
Do you get lectures from various researchers about information they've developed in your field?
Yes, I do.
Is continuing education a part of your job?
Yes, it is.
And to become a social worker like you are, do you have to obtain a certificate or any type of diploma?
Most of the social workers have masters in social work, yes. And I came up from the bottom up, with a BSW in social work, and worked myself up.
And does a social worker like you have a particular certificate or a license or anything of that sort that you obtain with?
I don't have a license, no.
Have your responsibilities at that agency pretty much been the same since you started?
Well, they've changed, because I work different positions.
Just summarize your different positions, if you would.
I worked at the McLaren Children's Center, which is used for temporary shelter for children. I worked there for over 12 years, working with kids for various problems. Most of the kids just directly came from their homes and were placed in the shelter care there. I was what you call the team leader of the unit where the children were housed, so I deal with a variety of various children with different problems.
Now, in the unit you're in currently, were you in that unit in 2003?
Yes, I was.
Okay, when did you begin working in this particular unit?
Let me see, about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I had multiple units. I was dealing with 3 different units at the time. I deal with children who have special needs, health issues. Also was dealing with minor parents, pregnant mothers, and I was dealing with a sensitive case unit. So it was 3 different units, basically.
And does your current unit, which was the unit you were in 2003, have a particular purpose?
Yes. We deal with those cases that are high-profile cases, cases that you see on the news, the media cases. We also deal with a lot of police officers, sheriffs, of some sort.
And does the fact that a case might be high-profile affect the nature of your work?
Yes, it does.
How does it?
High-level degree of confidentiality, the way we handle the case. I think this case was started about 10 or 11 years ago because of some things that were happening, and so a special unit handles those cases.
And if someone is high profile, let's say they're a celebrity that's well known, is it your understanding that they may be more of a target for complaints?
Well, not more of a target. I think that when those cases do come through the child abuse hotline, that those cases are put in a certain unit so that they would not have any leakage going on or anything that would get out.
Are you familiar with someone named Gloria Allred?
Yes, I am.
And who is she, to your knowledge?
She's an attorney.
And is she known to appear on TV a lot?
Yes, she is.
Is she known to generate a lot of controversy?
Yes, she is.
And have you ever received reports from her that you know of?
The existing report that we got, the first report from, I think it was February the 14th, 2002, 3, we're talking about, on the referral, her name is mentioned on the referral.
Okay, and she made a report about Michael Jackson to your agency, right?
It was mentioned in the report. There is another report I think that she did make a report.
Okay.
But the report I went out on, 2 to 14, her name was just mentioned in the report.
Okay, let's talk about what you did on February 14th, 2003, okay?
Okay.
Let me begin by asking if you know someone or have ever met someone named Janet Arvizo.
Yes, I have.
And how did you first meet Janet Arvizo?
To give you just a little background on how it happens, you get a child abuse referral from the hotline, and then it's framed out to certain units. And the unit that this particular referral was framed out to was our unit, sensitive case unit, due to the nature of the case. From there, you go out and attempt to make contact with that person. So that's what I was doing. I received it on 2/14, and at that point I read the referral and the allegations. From there, I decided to call the Los Angeles Police Department, because of the nature of the case, because they said it was sexual abuse. And anytime there's a sexual abuse, that could be a criminal, so we have to have the police involved, because they would be the one that would make the decision whether or not to detain the children.
Let me just go step by step, if I can.
Uh-huh.
You have received a hotline referral, right?
Yes.
And the hotline is a number that's public?
Yes, it's public knowledge.
Anybody can call it and make an accusation if they want, correct?
Yes.
They don't have to reveal their name, right?
No, they do not. No.
They can simply call up any time of day and say, yeah, I believe somebody might be doing something improper, right?
Yes.
The complaints can be legitimate ones or they can be totally frivolous, right?
Exactly.
But it's a number that's available to the public so they can make reports if they choose, right?
Right.
And very often, on that hotline, people remain anonymous, right?
Yes, they do.
So you never have a chance to investigate the background of the person who made the complaint, right?
I'm going to object as leading.
Sustained.
If an anonymous complaint comes in, what is the first thing that you, as a social worker in your particular unit, will do with that particular complaint?
I'm not the one that receives the referral, so this is anonymous. It comes through a telephone.
Right.
There's a hotline number. You call and say, I want to be anonymous. So at that point we don't do anything. When we do get people who want to not remain anonymous, we can, in fact, call them as a collateral contact to get information. Yeah.
So basically, generally speaking, you learned there was a referral?
Yes.
You don't necessarily know if it's a good referral or a bad referral, right?
No, we don't.
And you just follow up on the referral?
Exactly.
That's part of your job, right?
Yes, it is.
Let's get to Janet Arvizo. You learned that somebody had made a referral questioning Janet Arvizo and Michael Jackson, right?
Yes.
And you learned that somebody had made a referral because they saw a documentary on television, right?
Yes.
The documentary was now known as the Bashir documentary, right?
Yes.
And somebody made a referral saying that they had seen the documentary and they wanted you to look into Janet's actions and Michael Jackson's actions, right?
Right.
Okay, and you then were assigned to that particular case, correct?
Yes.
Was anyone else assigned to it with you?
No.
Okay, and your first action was to study what information you had and then call the police, right?
I read the referral of the allegations. The allegations were for general neglect.
By Janet Arvizo?
Janet Arvizo, yes.
So what did you do after you saw this referral that suggested there might be some general neglect by Janet Arvizo?
I had to go out and investigate the referral.
Okay, and how did you do that?
I went to the home of the address that was listed on the referral, and from there, first I called the LAPD, and I talked to the child abuse unit, and they sent 2 officers out there with me.
Okay, and where did you go with the 2 officers?
We went to the address that was listed on the referral.
Okay, and do you remember approximately where that?
415. I think it's 450, it's like off of Wilshire. It wasn't that far from my office.
And was that St. Andrews?
St. Andrews, that's it.
Now, did you get that address from the person who made the referral?
I got the address from the referral that came to my desk, yes.
And did you learn that that was the address of a Major J. Jackson?
I only learned that after I got there. Because I was looking on the roster to see whether or not her name was on there. So when I looked on the roster, I didn't see, but I did see, Jackson, so I connected. I said, well, maybe perhaps this is Jackson and she's, you know. But I talked to the superintendent of the apartment and he said there was no African Americans or Mexican Americans living in that particular complex.
So did you determine that there was no connection between J. Jackson and...
No, I didn't. I did not know.
Okay, what did you do next?
After that, I talked to the police officers, and they told me that they didn't have any jurisdiction in Los Angeles, because the incident happened in Santa Barbara, and that was the end of that. And so from there, I think it was like a Friday, and I went to work on a Tuesday, and I tried to contact the school that the children were going to. And I went over to the school and talked to a counselor there, and it was just coincidental that she happened to call. Janet happened to call the school while I was sitting there. And I told her that I needed to come and talk to her and interview her, and I had an allegation that I need to talk to her about.
And did you do that?
Yes, I did.
And just to clarify, where was that interview?
The interview took place on St. Andrews.
Okay, so that was Major J. Jackson's home.
Yes, it was.
Right? Now, who did you go there with for the actual interview?
I requested that my supervisor go with me and another coworker.
And do you know what their names were?
Yes, Jackie Bowen and Karen Walker.
And what is your typical procedure when you interview someone about a referral like this?
What I do is I read the referral, the allegations, first to them. And then I start to ask questions regarding the referral.
Now, did you believe that Janet Arvizo lived at that address?
I knew she didn't live there. Because she told me.
And why was the interview being conducted there?
Because she did not, I didn't have an address for her, and this is an address was given, I think because the kids were going to the school in that area, and this is the address that they were using.
Did you know whether or not Janet Arvizo and the children lived at that address from time to time?
I think yes, she did tell me that they lived there periodically, yeah.
And to your knowledge, did she choose that address to be interviewed at?
Yes, she did.
Okay, and did you wonder why she wanted that address, or was it just okay for her to pick whatever location she wanted?
No, she told me that she was hiding out from the media because of the Bashir interview, and the kids had been getting into a lot of squabbles and things with people on the streets. And she lived in East Los Angeles, and she lived in a small apartment, studio apartment, and she paid only $700 a month for rent. She was on welfare, and that she thought this was the best place for her to be at this time.
Okay, now, she told you she was on welfare?
Yes, she did.
And was it your obligation to check out whether or not she was properly on welfare?
Well, we have a computer system that does reflect if a person's getting what they call Cal Works or not. We know that information.
Okay, but you didn't know whether or not she had told the truth when she applied for welfare.
No, I didn't.
Objection, Your Honor. Lack of foundation, hearsay.
Sustained.
Your job at your agency was not to determine whether she was properly receiving any public assistance, right?
No, because I don't deal with that aspect of it. I deal with abused children.
Right.
Yes.
She told you what her rent was at the apartment in East Los Angeles, right?
She told me how much money she was receiving from welfare.
Okay, and did she tell you she had some financial problems?
Yes, she did.
Okay, what did she tell you they were?
Well, she said since her separation and past domestic violence issues with her husband, she's living on a medium income. She only has, like, $700. She was very emphatic about it. And that they were sleeping on the floor. She barely had enough money to make it.
Okay, and again, she tells you this on February 14, 2003?
No, it was February 20th.
February 20th, 2003?
I went to the home on February 14th. I didn't get in touch with her until the 20th.
So February 20th, 2003, she is at St. Andrew's Place with her children, right?
Yes, she is.
Do you recall anyone else being there with her?
When I walked in, there was several people that were there, which was kind of unusual. But it was two guys, a young lady and her son, and of course the children and her. And the 3 people that were with me, my supervisor and also one of my coworkers. So there was quite a few people there.
Do you know approximately what time of day this was?
Like 12 o'clock.
12 noon?
Yeah, around that. I can't remember what exact time it was. Yeah.
And you saw another woman with her child, right?
Yes.
Did you learn that her name was Asha Pryor?
Well, I did. I mean, back to memory, I think it was Chris Tucker's girlfriend and his child. And someone from Michael Jackson's, I don't know if he was a security guard or what.
And anyone else you remember seeing besides the Arvizo family?
There was another guy there. Can't remember his name.
Okay, now, did you have to walk up the stairs?
Yes, we did.
To get into this apartment?
Yes.
And the 3 of you arrived together?
Yes, we did.
All of you from the social agency, right?
Children's services, yes.
Were the other 2 people with you part of your unit as well?
Yes, they were.
Now, would it be normal to bring 3 of you for an interview?
Not normally.
Why did you do it this time?
Why did I do it? I just thought I needed some support.
Okay.
Yes.
You knocked on the door, right?
Yes, I did.
You were allowed in?
Yes, I was.
And what is the next thing you saw?
Immediately when I walked into the room, I noticed all the people sitting there. And Miss Arvizo, at the time I thought her name was Janet Ventura. Am I correct?
Uh-huh.
She came over to me and says, "Oh, please, sit down. Sit down. I want you to come over to the TV and watch a video." And I thought it was kind of odd, but I did it. And we all sat down. And it was a video of Michael Jackson and Gavin walking around Neverland looking at the swans and just basically riding on the train or something like that, of that nature.
So, she, meaning Janet,
Yes.
wanted to start off the meeting by you seeing a video?
I'm going to object to that question with the editorial comment. Move to strike.
Sustained. Stricken.
Was there any discussion that you had with Janet before she showed you this video of Michael Jackson and Gavin at Neverland?
Not really.
Okay.
That was the first thing she did immediately upon my arrival.
Did she show the video to the 3 of you?
All of us that were there, yeah.
And did you talk to her during the video or did everybody just watch it?
No, we just watched it.
Okay. What happened after the video was completed?
Okay, after the video was completed, my supervisor requested that all the people that were not involved in the referral, that they had to leave the premises.
And
She was.
what happened?
She objected to it, because she felt that those people were there to support her through this whole ordeal, and they were her friends. And we explained to them the level of confidentiality, and that they were not to be there, so we asked them to leave.
And you asked Janet to have them leave?
We asked them to leave.
And when you say, we asked them to leave.
The supervisor did.
And when you say you wanted them to leave, who are you referring to?
I'm referring to the 2 guys from Michael Jackson's camp or whatever, and Asha was her name, and the child. Who else was there? And that was it.
And did they leave when you made that request?
Yes, they did.
Did they leave the premises?
Yes.
Okay, so these people left, and who were you then with in the apartment?
It was Star, Gavin, Davellin I think was her name, and Karen Walker, which is the supervisor, Jackie Bowen, which is another social worker, and myself.
So at that point, just the 3 social workers, including you and the Arvizo family?
Yes.
No one else was there at that point?
No one else.
Okay, and what did you do after that?
I proceeded to talk to the mother and I read the allegations to her.
Okay.
Okay.
And were the children present when you did that?
Yes, they were.
Was that standard procedure?
Yeah, I just read the allegations. What I did was I took Gavin into another room, and then the other worker was going to interview Star and the other one was going to interview Davellin. But when I started to talk to Gavin, the mother came into the room and knocked on the door, and she asked me whether it was okay if she would be present, which if a parent wants to be present during the interview, they are allowed to be present.
Okay. Did you interview Gavin?
Yes, I did.
Did you interview Star?
Yes, I did.
Did you interview Davellin?
Yes, I did.
And did you interview Janet?
Yes.
Approximately how long did it take to do all these interviews, if you remember?
Maybe 2.5 hours.
Okay.
3 hours.
And to your knowledge, was anything recorded?
Yes, I recorded it. No, not recorded. Do you mean like tape record something?
Yeah.
No, we're not allowed to tape record.
Okay. Do you just take notes?
I have to take notes.
And typically, after you conduct an interview like this, what do you do with your notes?
I keep them.
Do you make a report?
Well, I have to write a report. Yes, I do.
And did you write a report in this case?
Yes, I did.
Okay, let's start with the interview you did with Janet. Have you looked at your report recently?
Yes.
What did you ask Janet?
I asked her, when I read the allegations to her, I wanted to hear her comments. And she said, well, absolutely that is not true, because I was interviewing her for general neglect.
What is general neglect?
When you are neglecting your children, like inadequate supervision, maybe you're not taking them to any medical or dental appointments. They are not going to school. They're in poor environmental conditions. Things of that nature.
When you read Janet the allegation of general neglect, did you tell her where the allegation came from?
No, I did not.
Okay, you just said there had been an allegation?
Yes.
Did you tell her anything to suggest the allegation had been ever proven?
No, that's why I'm there. My role is to investigate it.
Your role is to investigate it?
Investigate.
Did she respond to your description of the allegation?
Yes, she did.
What did she tell you?
She said that Michael's been like a father to her children, that she was very upset about it, that he has been very good to her children. He's more than their father had ever been. She said she was totally appalled by all the negative attention that her children had been receiving since the Bashir document, tape, And she was upset, excuse me. She was upset because she was saying that she doesn't have any consent to have her children be on TV, and she was upset with Mr. Bashir.
Okay, did she ever say anything negative about Michael Jackson?
No, she didn't.
Did she say anything about her ex-husband?
Yes, she did.
What did she say?
She talked about the past domestic violence issues and the anger and the frustration that she had been experiencing. And they had a restraining order against him until 2004, and that he had been physically abusing her children, and the grandparents had deserted the children practically.
Okay.
Yes.
Did she ever say anything that suggested Michael Jackson had abused her children?
No, she did not.
Okay, she only praised him, right?
Yes.
Now, what other questions did you ask Ms. Arvizo during your interview?
I asked, what usually happens when you go to Neverland? And she told me that when she goes to Neverland, that the kids are usually in the house, and sometimes she's this is another house that she's in. And she's usually very aware of what always goes on there, because she's very vigilant, she has a vigilant eye. And the kids play video games and watch TV, and I asked her had the kids ever been in Michael Jackson's room on his bed. She said, yes, they have, she said, because the house is really big. The room is really big, and the kids all play in the room. But she's aware of what goes on there.
Okay, and did she complain about anything that went on in Mr. Jackson's room?
No, she did not.
Did she ever say anything bad went on in Mr. Jackson's room?
No, she did not.
And did she tell you how she supervises her kids at Neverland?
She said that she's always aware of what the children were doing, that she's usually there. She's usually walking, up all night long. That's what she said.
And were you concerned about anything she told you about what happens at Neverland?
Not really.
Okay, did you ask her any questions about her kids' schooling?
Yes, I did.
And what did you ask in that regard?
I asked, what school do they attend? They attend John Burroughs Junior High School. Star and Gavin. I think Star was in the, Gavin was in the 4th percentile of the standard tests. She also told me that Gavin, Star was having a few problems with a cyst on his brain or something like that, of that nature. She said they were doing well in school. The daughter was doing well in school. She attended school over in East Los Angeles. She said she was doing good in school. And, basically.
Would it be accurate to say that Janet Arvizo denied the allegations of general neglect?
Oh, yeah, I was going to get to that. She denied all allegations of general neglect. And one of the things we said, the kids are in school, they were neat, dressed clean, they were in a proper environment, so that's what I'm investigating, the general neglect of her.
Any other questions that you asked her that you haven't identified?
I asked her about the relationship between she and Michael Jackson, and that's when she went on to say that he was like a father to her children, and that she thinks that he was responsible for helping Gavin to survive his cancer, for his cancer to be in remission.
Anything else you recall asking her in that interview?
I asked basically the same questions to each one of them.
Okay, let's move.
I did ask her was she aware that the kids ever slept in the bed with Michael Jackson. And she told me no, that never happened.
Okay, and did she tell you what she does at Neverland when she stays there?
She says watch movies and be in the park, and sometimes she's in the house. And she's usually walking up all night long, she says, kind of busy.
Okay, did you have any suspicions about anything she told you?
Well, based on what she was saying, what she was reporting, I didn't have any suspicions about it, no, because this is an interview that we do in less than 2 or 3 hours. It's not like a police investigation.
Did she seem fairly confident about what she was saying?
Pretty confident. Very anxious, very loquacious.
Did she seem like she wanted to talk to you?
Yes, very much so. Very touchy-feely, warm kind of person.
When you say, touchy-feely, what do you mean?
Touchy, huggy, overly affectionate.
Did she seem very spontaneous in her answers to your questions?
Object. Calls for a conclusion. No foundation.
Overruled. You may answer.
What was the question?
Did she seem very spontaneous in her answer?
Yes, she's witty.
She's witty? Okay. How long do you think your interview of Janet lasted?
Probably about 30-40 minutes.
Okay. And were her children present during the entire interview?
They were there.
All 3?
All 3.
Okay. And when you interviewed Janet, would the children sort of speak out, or were they silent and you just questioned her, if you remember?
They would say, when she started to speak about Michael, they kind of interjected some things, yes.
The children did?
Yes, they did.
Did they all seem to be in agreement?
Yes, they did.
About what she said to you?
Yes, they did.
Now, when you have an investigative interview like this, and you tell someone what the allegation is, in this case of course it was general neglect, do you tell the person you're talking to what the possible consequences could be of your investigation?
No, I don't. I mean, if I felt that I had to, that something was said during that interview, I would probably stop the interview. And that's why I said, because it was a sexual abuse issue here, that's when I would call the police department.
Okay, now.
She's aware of that. She was aware of that those kids could possibly be detained if I thought in any way that those kids were being neglected.
So you told her that you had called the police department, right?
No, I didn't tell her that.
You didn't tell her that?
No, I didn't tell her that. But this is one of the possibilities. Had we gotten to that point, that's what I would have told her.
But the first time you went to see her, you were with some police officers, correct?
Yes, I was.
And you didn't find her that particular day?
No, I didn't.
And that's the 14th?
Yes, that's the 14th.
Did the police officers leave their card at that address?
Yes. No, they left it with me.
Left it with you?
Detective Brown and Barclough, or something like that.
Now, When you went to the location on the 14th and you didn't find Janet there.
Right.
Did you leave any message that you had been there?
No, I didn't because I wasn't aware that was the correct address, because I didn't see her name listed on the directory.
Okay, now, when you spoke to Janet and the children on the 20th at Major J. Jackson's home.
Yes.
Did anyone tell you that they were being held against their will by Michael Jackson?
No, they did not.
During that interview, did any of the family say they were being abused by Michael Jackson in any way?
No, they did not.
Did any member of the family say they were being falsely imprisoned at Neverland?
No, they did not.
Did they say anything about their even wanting to go back to Neverland, if you know?
You know what? She did ask me. She wanted to know if I could have the interview at Neverland. The interview we were having, because she had requested that prior to me speaking to, actually talking to her.
She wanted you to travel with the family to Neverland for the interview?
She did suggest that.
Okay, and what was your reaction to that?
No, I need to see where they were living.
Okay, did Ms. Arvizo or any of the children ever say anything that suggested they were being extorted or hurt by Mr. Jackson on that day, the 20th?
No, she did not. The main complaint was she felt that the kids were being taped without her consent, and what could she do about it, because I did have some conversations with her after leaving her home.
When you say, taped without her consent, let me talk.
She means the Bashir tape.
Okay.
Yes.
She didn't seem to have any problem with the videotape she showed you of Michael Jackson with Gavin?
No.
She wanted you to see that, right?
Yes.
She never complained about that tape, did she?
No, she said she wanted to show me how caring and loving Michael was.
Okay, let me ask you about your interview on that day with Gavin. He was 13 years old, right?
At the time, yes.
What did you ask him?
I asked him very point-blankly, had he ever slept in the bed with Michael Jackson?
And what did he say?
He told me, no.
And what else did you ask him?
I asked him what was his relationship with Michael Jackson. He told me how he met him. That he was at the Laugh Factory. With Jamie Masada, and he wanted to grant a wish, and the wish was that he would meet Michael Jackson. He was in the hospital suffering with cancer. And his wish was granted, and they've had a relationship ever since. He was very fond of him. That he treated him like a father, and he really cared about him.
How long do you think your interview with Gavin lasted?
About 30 minutes.
Are there typical questions that you would ask a 13-year-old in your work?
Yes. I did ask him had he ever been touched sexually inappropriately at any time. He says, and he became a little upset. He says, everybody thinks that Michael Jackson sexually abused me. He's never touched me, and he was just very upset about it.
Okay, did he ever complain about anything Michael Jackson had ever done?
No, he did not.
Okay, did he continually praise Michael Jackson to you?
Yes, he did.
Did he ever complain about anything that was going on at Neverland?
No, he did not.
Okay, and what was his demeanor as you were interviewing him?
Kind of playful. Appeared to enjoy the attention. Very articulate. Very smart kid.
Was Gavin present when Janet showed you the video of Michael Jackson and Gavin at Neverland?
Yes, he was.
Did he ever say anything about that video to you?
No, he did not.
Okay, when you watched the video, was anybody speaking?
No.
Was everybody silent, just watching this?
Was silent, yeah.
Okay, did anybody tell you how that video was made?
No. Ha.
But was it your impression that Janet, Gavin, Star and Davellin all wanted you to see a video?
Yes.
Was it your impression that they were all happy about that video?
Yes.
It's only the Bashir video they complained about, right?
Yeah, they did complain about that.
Okay, alright. Now, when you finished your interview with Janet, just based on what you knew at that point, what was your conclusion, if any?
What I do is I interview all the people involved.
Okay.
Then I go and I write a report, and I do the conclusion on the report.
So you hadn't formed any conclusion.
Not at that time.
Until you had done all the interviews, right?
Until I did all the interviews.
Okay. You also interviewed Star Arvizo, right?
Yes, I did.
And what kind of questions did you ask Star?
All the same questions.
Okay.
What was his relationship with Michael Jackson? Has Michael Jackson ever sexually abused you or touched you inappropriately? I asked. What usually happens when you go to Neverland? 3 basic questions.
Uh-huh.
I asked him about their mother, how she takes care of them, you know.
What did Gavin tell you about how his mother takes care of him?
He praised his mother and talked about how good she takes care of him, and, you know, she's been by him through the cancer and the chemotherapy that he was going through.
Let me ask you about what Star told you. You asked him the same kinds of questions you asked Gavin, right?
Yes, I did.
What did Star tell you?
He praised Michael Jackson, said that he's been like a father to him, and he met him through his brother met him through his brother, after he was introduced by Jamie Masada, you know, to Michael Jackson. And he said they have fun when they go to Neverland. They usually do s'mores, be by the fireplace, they play around a lot. They said they had nicknames for each other. Michael had a nickname for him. His name was Blowfish, and he said, Michael can get loud, too, at sometimes. You know, very 12-year-old.
Did Star say anything negative about Michael Jackson at any time?
No, he did not.
Did he continually praise him?
Yes, he did.
Okay. What was Star's demeanor when you questioned him?
He was a happy kid. He was.
Did Star seem spontaneous in his responses to you?
Object. Calls for a conclusion. Lack of foundation.
Overruled. You may answer.
How did he seem?
Let me rephrase the question. How many interviews do you think you had conducted of mothers and children at this point in your career? Would it be thousands?
Oh, yeah.
Thousands?
Thousands.
Okay. And when you were interviewing Janet and these children, did they appear like they had memorized their answers or that they were following scripts to you, or did they seem like they were natural and spontaneous?
Same objection, Your Honor.
Overruled. You may answer.
It seemed spontaneous.
Okay.
The family, very interactive with each other. Seemed like they had a good relationship with their mom.
And you said that when you interviewed Janet, the children would sometimes interject and speak up, right?
Yes. Like in agreement.
Okay. And when you were interviewing each child, Gavin, Star, Davellin, would others interject as well during those questions?
Not much. No.
Well, for example, when you asked Gavin questions about Michael Jackson, do you recall the mother interjecting and saying?
No, she didn't say anything.
How about the other kids?
No.
Did they allow you to interview?
Yes.
Interview each person separately?
Yes.
Even though they were there?
Yes.
Do you recall anything else that Star had to say?
Basically just little fun things. What goes on? He plays video games. He does that. Nothing else, no.
And did he ever say anything bad about Michael?
No, he did not.
Okay, you interviewed Davellin, right?
Yes, I did.
And what kind of questions do you recall asking Davellin?
I asked her the same questions.
Okay.
Relationship she had with Michael Jackson. What did she usually do when she goes into Neverland? And I also asked her the same questions. Did anybody ever touch you inappropriately or make you feel uncomfortable?
And what did she say?
She said, no.
Okay. Did she praise Michael Jackson?
Yes, she did.
Okay. Now, who told you that the family would prefer that you come to Neverland with them for the interview?
Janet did.
Were the children with Janet when she said that?
No, she told me that over the telephone. She had my cell phone number.
Okay. And how did she get your cell phone number?
Because when she called the school, I called her back on my cell phone number, so she had it.
Okay.
You know, so?
Would this have been after the 14th?
No, that was. Yeah, right, it was like maybe the 19th.
The 19th?
I can't remember the exact day. I think the 20th was on a Tuesday. I'm not really sure, but it was prior to that when I went to the school and I spoke to the counselor.
Okay.
She did have my cell phone number. She did call me several times.
On the cell phone?
Yes.
Do you know approximately when Janet called you on the cell phone?
Daily.
Daily?
You know, I can't really recall, because it's been 2 years ago. But I do think it was like every other day or, because I was investigating.
Right.
And she was really anxious to find out what I was going to say or whatever. I told her at that point if anything was going to happen, I would have done it the day of the initial interview, which would have been the 20th.
Did she call you on your cell phone before the 20th?
Yes.
Okay.
She called me so we could make arrangements to have the interview.
Okay. Do you know approximately when she first called you on your cell phone?
We'll say the day of, when I went to the school. No, she called me maybe the next day. And so we can get the schedule together for the interview.
Sure. Is that between the 14th and the 20th?
Yes, it is. I think the 14th was on a Friday, and the Monday I was off, and Tuesday I think is when I finally got in touch with her.
Okay.
All right, we'll take our break.